All right, what is going on, everyone? Hope everyone had a great, or is having a great weekend. It's a little bit earlier than we usually stream, but because the Super Bowl tonight, I figure we get this stream in the morning, and then we can go a little bit longer. We could honestly go for like 2 hours, I think, if we have enough people who care. And then this will obviously stay up on the channel, so you guys can always come back and watch it. Or for someone who's watching after the fact, it should be here forever. So that's awesome. What I'm gonna do first is a few minutes early before 10 a.m. Eastern. I'm going to just look at SPY really quick. Just get a sense of like what is going on in the overall market. So obviously uptrending continuously, like we have been seeing. We could honestly probably draw in, I think, some sort of trend line here on the tops of some of these candles. Yeah, kind of like we kind of have this top trend line, on the tops of these candles right here. I'm just going to disregard this little wick right there, but yeah, and then bottom support here at this 365 area. We came down close, didn't really get there last week, or yeah, I guess like 2 weeks ago, I guess almost like a week and a half ago. So yeah, we're kind of bouncing right off of that. That was an amazing dip buy for those who were on the stream, last 2 weeks ago, I guess now at this point, or so. We were buying. I mean, it was kind of tough to buy the dips, but we're buying dips on that, on that stream, and it paid off massively, as you guys probably saw in yesterday's video. I mean, 15% on my account. My style of trading, the way I trade generally, if I do 5-10%, that's great. 5%. 5-10% per week, man, like that's awesome. It's just consistency. I'm not trying to I'm not swinging for the home runs. I'm not doing the massive all in on one stock. So yeah, this was a big week, and we'll see. Obviously, this next week is going to be interesting. Why do I have two separate channels? Because I want to keep, more, I guess, somewhat personal / more like educational stuff, I guess, more on this channel. And the other one is going to be, or is like more just kind of diving into a couple, like 1 or 2 stocks a video. So usually it's just like one stock. So if you have any questions, if I get a lot of comments about certain stocks, though, then that's probably a really good idea as to what types of, videos or what stock I'll talk about in that channel. It doesn't mean that I'm in them or anything. It just means like I get a lot of questions about them. So I do a lot of, I'll look at the chart. We'll dive into the news. We'll see what's going on, and then that's kind of why I have that one. So that is that. Yeah, the market just seems like it goes up. I mean, I think we probably may have some resistance up here around this 390-ish area, but we're getting close to that. So maybe, maybe we have like a kind of a chill week where it kind of just, bounces around, doesn't do too much up or down, and then we'll see what happens. I mean, I wouldn't be, opposed to like a dip Monday, Tuesday, followed by like a recovery, at the end of the week. It would be fun to just be buying dips on Monday, Tuesday, and then having them pay at the end of the week. Those are fun weeks. Another thing to talk about too is Bitcoin. Let's see how Bitcoin's doing. Bitcoin actually, yeah, it's actually interesting. So Bitcoin this weekend or yesterday, it pushed up and broke over 40K. It hit 41,000. Wow, I didn't even realize that. Hit 41,000. And that's, over the weekend here. So obviously there's not much, well, you can trade it over the weekend on whatever broker you really have, or at least most. I know you can still buy it on Webull if you really wanted to, and whatever, crypto broker you use. But 42K is the number we got to hit. So we hit just shy. We hit 1,000 shy. Now we had a prior resistance up around this like 38.4, 38.5-ish area. And so that's kind of where we're sitting right now. And so let's see. I mean, if we can hold this as support now, and we'll check back on this one a couple times, I guess, throughout the stream. But if we can hold 38.4-ish or 38, I would say roughly 38,000, and then Bitcoin bounces back off, I would be very bullish. I would expect a new high into this week. If not, potentially. I mean, it can move fast. I don't know, maybe not tonight, but maybe tomorrow morning or something like that. If it bounces from here, we'll see. It could certainly come down. I mean, who knows what's going to do? But that could shape us. That could shape a lot of plays into next week. It could be a Bitcoin, craze again. If Bitcoin breaks out, hits 50K, yeah, it's going to get a lot of attention, media, and all that stuff. So it's going to be another one of those. Okay, find the Bitcoin plays that haven't run yet, and find those and get in those as early as possible. 36 last month, 46. Oh yeah, I mean the pullback at the end of the month, it does hurt, but like the thing is like the way that I saw it, it's like, yeah, I was red for the week because I swing trade, but it sets you up for the next week, and it set me up beautifully for the next week. So I'll take that anytime. But pullbacks, the more that happens, the more you actually start to embrace the pullbacks. And I can't tell you how much like months ago, or even a year ago or whatever, that I would see that. And I'm sure there's plenty of stocks I would have sold and just gotten out and said, okay, I'm out. I'm just going to, freshen up for next week. Maybe I keep a couple plays that are holding up. And then what happens? The next week, all the stocks that I sold, they bounce back, and some of them run crazy, and I missed out on it. So yeah, you know. Okay, let me start looking at some of the questions, some of the stocks we can take a peek at. Let's see. I'm seeing. I mean, a lot of people are talking about ZOM. I've been getting a lot of questions. That's why I did a video on ZOM specifically on the second channel yesterday, just to kind of talk about it. $2 is your resistance for right now. So am I someone who has ZOM? No. If I had thought about it or if I was paying attention, maybe it wasn't a terrible buy around the 90-cent area down in here. But it's kind of pushing up. They have their Trueforma product launch on the late March. So we got time. It's like a month and a half until that launch of that product. So there's still more time to go. The only thing is that I would think that this type of run would come closer to the launch, and it's not. It's coming now. So maybe this thing has a lot more in the tank. Maybe it does. I don't know. We're going to see. But $2 is key. You got to break over 2. Once you break over 2, then you're probably in a shot towards this 250. You got to kind of grind through some of this chart, history, I guess. And then once you get past that, you can probably hit $3. And over 3, ZOM could get really interesting because over 3, you're into uncharted territories. There's no chart history. The thing can go to 5. Who knows, if it gets absolutely nuts. One thing I want to just talk about with ZOM, let's pull up the ZOM on FinViz and see what it is. So it's a 500 million float. So it's not really a super low float. And then obviously the higher the price goes, the more that kind of makes an impact in a sense. So, that means there's 521 million shares available to be traded. How many you need someone who has some significant cash, obviously now to move ZOM, right? So you need a lot of buyers to get that going. But the volume has been coming up and it's been increasing for sure. Short percentage, 13%, nothing crazy there. Let's see, do we have any insider buys or sells? There's actually was an insider, a director who sold 6,400 shares on the 3rd, February 3rd for 110. So he's probably taking himself now. But, that said, he sold some shares. Nothing, that didn't sell a ton of shares, but, at least that was that. NSPR and CTRM, I kind of like, I'm in NSPR actually. Let me see it. Let's pull it up. I'll pull this bad boy up. Inspire MD. So yeah, I mean, the volume just doesn't lie here. And to me, this is going to be a breakout over $1 at some point. Or at least $1, at least $1 will be a target I'm looking for. But I mean, the volume has been pushing up kind of roughly the past couple months. I played NSPR actually back. I want to say I was in it back here when it was like in the 30s. I think I actually bought that live on a stream one time. And then it was like the next week it paid nice. And then I ended up selling it, I think somewhere up in the 60s or something like that. So it was like 100% from my average. Or I think I was messing around buying some dips and selling into some of the rips after that. But then, I actually rebought it here because it seemed like it was holding up around 65 or so. If it came down below like 60 cents, I probably would have cut it. But it was holding up pretty well. So I grabbed some, and then luckily, in a sense, early on Friday morning, I just bought more. I think I bought it in the pre-market, which I usually don't buy in the pre-market, but I bought I added a little bit to my position just so that I had a little more. And then, the rest of the day, it kind of ran, so I can't complain. But this is looking like a gapper candidate. It finished up kind of at the high of the day. It looks like it wants to make a shot towards 90 cents, breaks out over 90 $1, and then maybe some more after that. And then CTRM is another one that's super cheap, right? CTRM, I was actually in, and I took it for like a day trade. I was in it. I think I bought it in like the mid 60s. I think Sino or one of the other shipping companies went nuts. They had like Bitcoin news. They put out like that they're mining Bitcoin now, or they're like partnering with some Bitcoin miners or something like that, something crazy. And then it ran. So Sino ran like 100% in like a second. And really it happened like so fast. So I bought some CTRM. It popped like a couple cents, and so I took my profits there. And then ultimately, yeah, it's setting up for potentially more here as it's kind of breaking out of this consolidation trend right now. So if CTRM can get over 90 cents, I think it goes to $1. Which would be nuts. I mean, it would just be absolutely nuts because CTRM is a stock I've traded so many times in the past, or at least I maybe not traded so many times, but at least I watched it like a million times. And like, look at this history of the stock. I mean, like, it's just like, it was just so tough to kind of figure it out. But now we kind of see, this is obviously a different year. So, I mean, like this is CTRM from my experience back in at least the summer months. It's just like, it just wasn't fun to trade. It was just like completely just kind of dead for so long. But now it's, resurging up, and it's kind of crazy though, like how all this stuff, it's because we have a lot more people trading, obviously. number one. But like number two, it's like, generally this time of year is a hot time of year for penny stocks, for, low float stocks, for stocks under $1. This is a hot time, like December through like February, March usually. And then maybe it slows down. So we'll see. The question is going to be really interesting for me is like, okay, what's going to happen like in the summer? Like we saw last summer when generally the volume dies out come like August usually, July, August, September is usually like dead months sometimes. In a lot of penny stocks, it is not sometimes, a lot of times, more often than not. But it's going to be interesting to see because now we have so many new traders, and this whole Wall Street Bets thing, it only brought in more traders, right? And so I'm getting a lot of people who are commenting saying, hey, I'm new, relatively new, and that's awesome. That's good stuff. I just don't want people who are relatively new to start thinking like and start getting caught up in how all these stocks kind of move, because we're probably coming around the corner to slower times at some point. I'm just looking at charts and stuff, earlier and even past couple of days. There's a lot less charts that are bottomed out. There's a lot less bottomed out penny stocks than there have been. So there's a lot less to pick from. Could that be good? Yeah, because now that means that the ones that you pick from, could be massive runners. Yeah. But, so just take that into account, I think. Let's see. TYME, I pulled it's right here. It's maybe it holds up right around this 225-ish area, but I don't know. There's a gap down towards this $2, so it could come down to $2. That could be a better spot, in my opinion, to maybe snag some. Bullish cross here, I guess, with the 50 MA cross and the 200 MA on the daily chart. So yeah, it looks like it could be set up for another run. I would just somewhat keep a stop in place. Maybe, if it drops below this low right here of this candle on the 4th, maybe, this 220, drop below 220, cut it, look to be buying this thing closer to $2. That could be a better strategy. Or just have, cash ready to go down towards 2. And if it pops towards 2, then there you go. These are great though, because when you get a spike like this is actually really good because it kind of sets the chart up. Now you have a prior spike, right? And now this stock may just consolidate. Let's say it consolidates here at 225. Okay, you're sitting here at 225, and then eventually, right, this thing may start curling up, making like a U shape, and then that's like once it starts breaking up to the upside or consolidating, you want to be buying at that support. So we don't have much history, so maybe the support becomes 225, maybe, or maybe it drops a little bit further and down towards 2. So that's why these are not like high percentage trades for me because there's not much history. So once we get a couple more days, then it's worth taking a shot. And usually, get like 3 or so days in at least post spike. So I would need at least one more candle to determine, okay, where's current support? And let's see, right? There's not that much history though. So obviously if the market comes crashing down one day or we get some bad news and everything sells off, yeah, it's going to sell off probably with the market. And so it could come down further. The longer it sits at a support, kind of the stronger that support generally becomes in a sense. So at least that's my take. TRCH, this is actually interesting because I'm actually pumped for, what is this guy? I'm pumped for oil plays this week. TRCH has been a grinder. This thing has been pushing up nice. Putting in higher lows. We got a little of a dip on Friday, but we'll see. Let's pull up USO. I don't actually love USO. I wouldn't trade USO. It's just, if you bought it like months ago, yeah, you're looking great. But USO, like, look at this. So United States oil has been pushing up, right? Oil's been pushing right back up. It got crushed, obviously, back in March and whatnot, in April, whatever. And now it's just been grinding its way back on up. It's not over. Oil is not going away, right? We have the whole EV craze and all that stuff, but oil is not going away, at least as of right now. So oil plays. Let's actually I'm going to pull a bunch up on Finviz because this is actually fun to do. So we can see what oil plays we want to look at. What do I want to do? Let's go to the screener. Let's go to sector. Let's do energy, and then we'll do oil and gas. We can start there. And so here's a bunch. Actually, do I have any other? No. Okay, we have this. So Bohr is one. Let's take a look at Bohr. Yeah, Bohr looking like it could make Bohr is a slower mover. Bohr has a higher float than I like to trade generally, but Bohr is solid. Breaking out of this downtrend right here. So Bohr over $1 now looks really good. If it can hold $1, it's got to break over this 125, and then Bohr can make a nice little run. So Bohr probably has about 25+% in it if oil stays uptrending. So Bohr I like is a solid one. I'm not in, but HP. Let's see. Okay, this is a little bit higher price stock. Yeah, HP over 28 could get interesting. Let's see if we can find some other ones. Let's see. There is another. Oh yeah, I have two of my own actually. Let's see, and just quickly look at some of these really quick in case there is something I'm missing. Yeah, okay. So my couple favorites are HUSA, as we like to say. HUSA. Look at this chart. Now, I got questions because I mentioned this one in talks with NTN. So here's why I wanted to share it. And I didn't mean that I like NTN as a buy. No, absolutely not. But here's HUSA. Actually down on Friday, right? USO is up. This is down. That's kind of a, somewhat of a lagger in a sense. Doesn't have to perform the same exact way, but it's a good guide. So it's curling on up. I've played it multiple times from under 1 to over 2 and then eventually hit 3. So that's great. But look at NTN. Similar chart, right? If we just kind of take NTN and zoom across to where, before it ran, right? Look at NTN. Very similar. Big spike back here, uptrending, putting in higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. And then eventually, boom, thing blew up. Okay? The other key point to note about these two stocks, look at NTN, float of 2 million. Okay, so low float stock, under 10 million, low float stock. And then look at HUSA. Let's pull it up. HUSA, float of 6 million. So low float stock, under 10 million. So that's why I like HUSA so much. But on top of that, I also like CEI. And there's plenty of these to go from, honestly. CEI getting at like 150-ish. Could it come down more? Does it have more downside than HUSA? Yes, so I didn't go in as big on CEI, but I like that one as well for like 100%. Like when the oil plays run, they run. I had months ago in the summer, I think it was June, my first like $1,000 day was on oil plays. I had a bunch of oil plays that I have accumulated and I kind of stacked up in the background, and then I had them set up. And then it was like, okay, cool. And then one day they started running and I made like a bunch of money. And then I kept some because I was like, okay, these could go further, right? I kept very small shares into the next day. And then it was the next day that they actually really ran hard and they went 100% plus on like many. I remember it was like TAT. I think I got delisted now, but TAT was like, that thing went nuts. It was like up like 500% or some crazy number in one day. And I only had like a little bit amount of shares on a bunch of them, but I had like 5 oil stocks, right? Now I spread my risk across the stocks, so I wasn't all loaded into 1 or 2. I spread my risk a little bit. That's what I'm kind of doing with HUSA and CEI. And then I'm going to look for more. And then there's even PED that I like as well. PED could be good. This trend line, I mean, doesn't have to respect it. I don't really care. If it comes down, it could come down towards 150, 140. PED looks actually really good. I may look to grab this one as well. Same thing. I mean, we can look at PED on FinViz. And then I'll get back to some questions in a second. PED, right? 2 million float. Like, is that a joke? No. I mean, this thing has that potential. So it spiked to 350. There's more. I think there's still more. The oil plays will go. They had some run last or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. But I think there's more to come here. For at least some of them. So that's why I like them. Just be careful though, because they are more volatile. So you don't want to be chasing these things as they start spiking, because they can maybe kind of fake you out. Whereas like last week, right? If you look at CEI, it kind of faked me out a little bit. Not really, but I got in low. And my average is like under 150, right? So it faked us out where it popped to like 65. And I thought, okay, maybe this could be the day that it runs. And then it didn't actually continue to go. So be careful on some of those, because what is it telling us? We're getting some volume. We're getting some spikes. I mean, it's telling us people are, there's accumulation. There's people buying this stock. It's putting in higher lows. They could be setting up for a big run. So that's what I'm looking for. NEOS. Profitable. Should I trade the spikes or hold some for possible? Oh, let's take a look. Let's take a peek at the chart. A lot of times the chart is going to tell you a good sense, as to what is going on. Let's see. When penny spikes, should I set limits that possibly catch spikes? Yeah, that's the thing. So it really, what it depends on is a couple things, and I guess it gets kind of more, it's a more complicated answer than people hope. And this is why, like, I want people to understand that the unfortunate thing with a lot of people who and I need to do a better job sometimes too, but the unfortunate thing is that, especially on YouTube, right, or wherever, people follow somebody or people jump in because of like a top stock video or whatever, or they watch a stock that someone called. And I don't mean to be the guy to call anything. I don't want to be that guy. I do not care to call anything for anybody. I want people to become their own trader. So ideas, if we take the same trades, awesome. That's great. But as long as you like the trade, you have your own plan, that's 100% awesome, right? But when it comes to penny stocks, people got to be careful, because there's people who probably watch a lot of the penny stock videos, or they find penny stocks from somebody else, and they are buying this stock with absolutely no idea how this stuff works. So for example, NEOS, let's see how Let's just get a sense at the float. So what is the float? Okay, 49 million float. Okay, so it's under 100 million, under 50 million. So it could move fairly fast. And we look at the chart, we have a lot of spikes. So sometimes the float is very helpful. Obviously, the lower the float, under 10 million, be very careful. You do not want to be chasing that stock. And I recommend having some limit sells for spikes because you get spikes almost all the time. But this type of stock, it has a little bit of a higher float. So what does that mean? It's more of, it could be more of a grinder. It could take a little bit more time to kind of get going and kind of push up. But that said, we have these prior spikes. So these spikes, we can look at them and say, okay, some of these spikes from like 70 cents up towards 120. So these are like 50 to 100% spikes at times. So what I would do is if you like the solid, I don't know enough about the background of the company, right? But if you've done the research, and FinViz is actually a great place to start with some research. Let's see if there's any insider bias. No, not that I can see. If you've done the research and you like the company, potentially longevity of it, okay, then that's fine. What you want to be doing is building out a core position. So people can trade like this all the time, and I think people don't do it enough. So build out a core position. Maybe your core position, right? If this thing comes down towards this trend line, down towards 70 cents, that's where you want to have some cash available to be buying this guy. So if you want to start and grab something here and you like it long term, don't miss out, right? Grab something because you believe in the company long term, and you're intending to hold this one for a while. But also, what I would personally do is have some sells for maybe like 25 to 50% of my shares. Just have some good till canceled limit order sells above, 25 to 50 to 100% above your current price. So if you ever get a spike, those hit and you can lock in some gains. Then you also want to have maybe some limit buys or just set some orders or set some alerts that, okay, the stock comes back down below 80 cents. I want to look to start buying some more to build out my long-term position. So that's kind of how I would play something like this. We have that prior history of spikes, obviously, and it's up to you. I mean, the thing that I personally do is that and this is just how I do it. The second I learn too much about a company is the second I've gone too far. Now, that not to say that I don't look into the background, I don't look into their cash in, I don't look into like prior history of offerings, how fast they're burning cash. I'll look into that stuff. I'll look into what's in the pipeline. But the second I start kind of like, for me, it's just the way that I have done it is just to keep everything no emotion involved. And so to keep it no emotion, I don't need to care too much about what's going on in the company. I trade what's in front of me. And so most of the time I'm skeptical. I need to be skeptical of everything, right? So most of the time I'm skeptical. And so if I get that 20 to 100% spike, I'm out. Like that's how I do it. Now, could it go for more? If I, maybe really trust the team, I really trust the CEO or whatever, maybe, but that's just how I do it. So that's at least will be my kind of strategy behind something like this. If I like it long-term, build out a core, and then looking to sell the spikes, and then re-add that position on the dips as it comes back down, as things kind of quiet out. And MFH is one that I didn't do it because I don't want to hold something for that long. I'll just be in and out a couple times. But MFH is a solid play that people love. People love in like the fintech, I guess, or whatever you want to call it for Bitcoin or related to Bitcoin. So we can pull up the site. I don't even know. Like people like this play as they say a Bitcoin play in a sense. So this is for one example of okay, MFH, cool. Let's pull this bad boy up. Let's pull it up on the chart here on Webull. This is one where like okay, you're buying dips and this thing is a super low float, right? So it spikes. Let's go back to FinViz, sorry. And pull up the float on MFH. So the float is 3 million. So super low float, and it makes sense. Look at these spikes. Some of these spikes are like crazy high. So here's one where like you can have your limit sells set up, every couple dollars or set it like every dollar or two to the upside. So if it hits, great. But many times it has come back right down intraday or like the next couple days, it comes right back down. So, this is another one that I know people who are holding this one long-term, right? Who have a core position size long-term, but are doing that exact thing. We get spikes, they take like half their shares off or a quarter of their shares off, and then they look to rebuy those shares if it comes back down. So that's another example. Let's see. Sorry, I'm missing a lot. Let me go back through and scroll through some of the questions. VXRT I just saw is one. We can look at VXRT because that one is, I know people who are getting hurt in this one. Let's take a peek. Let's see. So they had a crazy run in anticipation of their news that they had ended up having, and then I guess wasn't as impressive as people hoped. So that's why we came back down. Buy the rumor, sell the news. That was a perfect example. VXRT was a perfect example of buy the rumor, sell the news. So that's another thing that I do a lot with penny stocks too, is that I will look at these things and I'll say, okay, We know we have news on this date. Or for example, ZOM, right? We know we have the product launch on like the 20th of March or something like that, I think, off the top of my head. So I'm not going to hold ZOM, right? I'm not holding ZOM after the 20th of March. Like, there's no way, because it's a potential buy the rumor, sell the news. Once that launch happens, unless you have a really great, company who's going to put out a press release or do something nice, put out a cool PR or something like that. Unless you got a company that's going to be doing something like that, and they really know how to kind of work that stock price, if nothing happens, the stock's probably going to come right back down because, okay, now what are we looking forward to, right? We're waiting either for a press release to say everything went well or everything went better than expected, or nothing happens and, okay, everyone's like, okay, it's over. Like, we'll just kind of sell my shares. And then that's a good dip buy for those who want to look into longer term, who believe in the company longer term. That's a whole other story. But VXRT honestly has come back down to a decent spot. I mean, I have to say, if I was in this one, I know people who got crushed because they may have bought it a lot higher, but that said, it's coming back down, and I just wouldn't be able to sell this right here because you're selling it into support. This consolidation period was support. I mean, maybe it comes down plenty more, but this is a time if you're looking for a potential bounce or you're looking for something, you may get something very, very soon, because we are coming down to where it was trading back, a few weeks ago. And this is, trading in this, $5 to $7 range was where it was. Maybe you have a $5 stop. So I know it's still a long way to go down. Maybe that stop loss that you kind of have is $5. You kind of got to figure out, how far you're willing to hold this thing to the downside based on the chart. Maybe you're looking at this dip right here back in the beginning of January down towards 5.25. Maybe that's your stop. So that's how I would play it. I would hold a stop at some point. For me, it probably would be like 5.25, but I also would never have bought this thing up here. So I would be waiting a little bit more, but maybe I'm starting to nibble and take a starter position or taking some shares here and then looking to maybe average in. For me, though, it just spiked. I like to give stocks plenty of time after a spike. So I don't like to play many stocks right after a spike. Personally, that's just me. Do I follow any other stock YouTubers? I kind of do. Yes and no. That's one of those things, too, that I think, honestly, I don't really watch many. Like, sometimes if I see a video that pops up, maybe I will I'll watch it or just take a peek. But from what I have seen, though, to be honest, like, to me, it's like I will, like, there's people who do more kind of buy and hold, more dividend stuff. People who do more, like, longer term stuff. That's fine. I kind of do my own thing. So, I've seen people who do like penny stock videos, but the problem with a lot of people who do penny stock videos is that the issue that there is kind of on YouTube with that is that it's kind of overhyped and kind of, it's like the next best thing. So I've seen ZOM was one of those that I saw a lot of people talk about. BNGO may have more long-term potential. I don't know. But the problem with that, it's like kind of over sensationalizing these things. There's a way to trade them. And then there's people who want to buy and hold, invest. The problem that I have found with a lot of that stuff is that when you buy and hold, invest penny stocks, maybe 5%, of these things actually become solid long-term plays. Now we're in a crazy market, so it seems like everything is running. But at some point, right, these other people who are making these videos about the next 1,000% penny stock, the problem with that is that eventually that we're going to hit like a dead market, and these things are not going to do that again, right? And so it's a complete pump and dump in a sense. And, that's why I prefer to just give ideas and say, hey, I trade these things. These are not the next best thing. And if it becomes the next best thing, cool. I'll take my, X% of gains. I'll take my piece of the pie there, and I'll move on to something else that has a higher probability. That's it. So that's just my take on that stuff. There's people who have great content, I'm sure, and I've seen some. But there's also a lot of kind of content that is just like, I don't know. It gets a ton of views, but it's just realistically, it's not going to help most people. Like, it's going to give them maybe a stock, and if the stock goes up and they get lucky, great, they make money. But then they're going to do the same thing on another stock, and then it's going to come crashing down. That's the whole AMC and GME thing. To be honest, I'm not to be a hater against that stuff, but like, it was just a waste of my time. Like, I made money on AMC and I moved on. Like, why am I going to mess? I'm sorry. Why are you going to play? If you're going to play AMC to hold it for the long term because you think movie theaters are going to be around, cool. That's your thesis. Play it long term. Shut up. That's it. It's over. Hold it. Like, that's it. Like, that's just kind of my take. It's like I hate people who are still entrenched in that stuff when, like, there's so many other opportunities. There's so many other higher probability opportunities out there every single day where people can go and actually consistently make money doing that. Whereas you can then hold something that's probably going to come down or maybe it just sits here at the current price on GameStop and GME and AMC, whatever, for quite some time. Eventually, you're going to get tired of it. You're going to cut it, sell it for a loss, go to something else, and then that's when it's going to run. So it's like that's just kind of what I see is going to happen to so many people. So I just feel like there's better strategies. Okay, sorry, I'm missing stuff. I'm going back through. The Score, Sportsbet 3 Plus. I mean, I love the sports betting stuff. I'm bullish on that stuff. I think those are solid plays. I have some GNOG in my long term. It's kind of been lame. GNOG, let's pull it up. It's been lame. Golden Nugget Online Gaming, but I still like that. I'm still bullish on this. I have so many lines from like prior videos, but yeah, I mean, it's holding up around this point right here, the 1750 with support. So it's still fine. I think it's fine. I'm gonna hold it. Ideally, I want to see this thing making a bigger push at some point, but we have a downtrend right here. So there's a downtrend we can draw in for now until you break out of that downtrend. It's probably headed down. So we'll see. Finviz, how old is the data? It's not. I don't think it's old. It's like this is updated all the time. The short float percentage is updated like every day. I haven't followed it too close. I don't have the you can get the elite version. I'm not sure you can get into access to all that stuff if you really wanted to, but there's a lot of stuff already for free if you wanted to use that. But that's always an option too. So it's updated. Let me see. Sorry, let me go down to some more questions. Long-term stocks I'm looking to enter. Yeah, actually, that's a good question because I do have a bunch that I do kind of like. I can pull up a few. Let's see. What is one that I like? There's a few. RMO is one that I was thinking about as a potential long-term entry. Here it is. Here's a nice. You're in that kind of. Let's pull this bad boy up. What is this guy? What is their site? Let's pull it up. RMG. Oh, is this the acquisition company? Okay, so never mind. But let's pull it up. Yes, this is sitting in a buy range for me. RMO is one that I'm looking at, Romeo Power, and then I'm looking for this thing to make a recovery or bigger move longer term too. What else do I have? NGA was one that's on my list. I have it sitting here, but is it at a good buy range right now? Okay, it's kind of chilling out. So this could be a better buy than where it was. It's not a bad buy. This is one as well. It was on my list from like weeks ago, and so I just didn't want to buy it up here. So it's getting better. It's getting to a better spot. Let's see. I mean, obviously, there's CCIV. I haven't bought that one, but if it does kind of come back down or eventually we get lucid news, that could be a decent longer-term play. SFT is one that's also on my list for a potential longer-term play as well. This is kind of sitting here at support right around $8. I like that one. Shift. I like Shift. And then IPOE is SoFi. IPOE is the merger with SoFi. This could be a good play eventually. I would just like to get dips. So yeah, you have a relative dip now. Maybe this is something to watch going into the merger, but I'd be careful on it for right now because you kind of have let it kind of cool off post-merger or into the merger maybe. Maybe it cools off, maybe it doesn't. So I don't know. Those are some of the ones I'm looking at right there. Obviously, I actually bought some more NEO this past week. Here's NEO. Yeah, it's sitting right here at support, which we kind of have in the mid 50s. I like NEO into this year now, obviously, but kind of have a downtrend forming in a sense, right there. So I like NEO. What else do I like long term? There's a bunch of other ones. There's even people are talking about car lots too. I have some of my long term. This thing has come plummeting down, very similar, I feel like, to FSR. If you look at Carvana, I guess is like your kind of similar competitor in a sense. Different kind of, I guess they're different, but look at Carvana's like $300. That's why car lots. I like this one down here under 10. This could be a decent play long term. So there's those are a couple things that I like for the long term at least. I have Tesla as well. Obviously, I've had that for quite some time too, and it's up beautifully since I got it. And I also have a bunch of those ARK ETFs. So if you want to go back, I have a video on the channel too going over some ARK ETFs. I think. No, yeah. So top holdings in ARK ETFs. So some of those could be good long-term plays too. But I have a bunch of those ARK ETFs just in my long-term as well. So, Surf. This one I've played before. I feel like, oh wow. Surf has just been riding this 50 SMA beautifully. It looks like it wants to do it again, bouncing right off this 10. for a move back up potentially towards a new high 15. That's nuts. Surf is one that I played back in here when it was like $2-3. I think I played it back, or I was in this kind of playing it in this trend, and it broke the trend, and then of course pushed up from there. Wow, that's cool. That's crazy to see. It's always funny when you look back at stocks you traded in the past. But that's the thing. That's my style though. So yeah. So do I look back at a stock like this that I traded in the past and say, oh wow, if I had just held it from where I bought it for the past 4 months, yeah, I would have been up, like 200%. Yeah, I can look at that, or I could say, I could look at some other ones and say, well, yeah, if I held that one for 2 months, I would be down like 75%. So that's the nature. I try to capitalize on the large percentage moves, and this one I was looking for a breakout of this downtrend, and we kind of got it right here. I think we got it over this 6 to 7. We got a dollar move, and then it just kind of failed to break out and push back down. So you're not going to catch them all, but you can catch high percentage moves, and that's what I'm all about. So catching those high percentage moves, they're always there. You can replay the same stocks over and over and over if you really wanted to, and I've done that many times. And eventually, you build out enough watch, you build out enough lists, and eventually you can play these things, and that could be where you make a living, honestly, on a couple stocks. Impx. So this thing is finally, this is nuts. I used to play Impx, a while back too, from like $1 to like $150 was like roughly where I was looking, I think. Yeah. I played Impx, but eventually, right, Impx kind of came from, where is this? Back in, August, it kind of just came down and was downtrending for quite some time, and it was a good pickup at $1, about 2 months ago. And look at this, from here, came back down, pushed up, hit 170-ish, and then came back down to 130, and then it's pushed up from there. Decent red candle on Friday, so it was down quite a bit. But that said, support is building here at like 130-ish. We have the 50 SMA curling on up. It's going to cross, looks like, this 200 SMA very, very soon. So we're going to get that bullish cross probably very soon. So if IMPX dips down, it could be a decent buy. This is actually a funny one. If you wanted to look up, I always think it's funny to look up. Sometimes I think it's always funny to look up like the teams behind some of these, like look up like who's actually running these companies. And I think I've seen the picture of IMPX of like the guys who are running it. It's just funny. It's like funny to see some of these pictures that are up online. But it doesn't matter. The stock price is going to move, right? Either way, up or down. It doesn't matter who's running the company. Well, it does, obviously. If someone who's an idiot is running the company, it's probably going to be headed down, right? Let's see. Whole SNDL into the weekend. Not sure if it was a good choice. Okay, yeah. Here's actually, sorry, I'm slowly catching up on the comments, but SNDL, right? This is actually here's my thought on SNDL. They need to regain compliance with the Nasdaq by June. By June 26th, I believe is the date. I was looking at it yesterday. So SNDL has to get 10 consecutive days with the bid price closing above $1. And what do we have lately for them to regain compliance? What do we have? We have 5. We had actually now 5 days in a row of them closing above with the bid price over $1, so that this is potentially setting them up to regain compliance with the Nasdaq listing requirement. So what does that mean? This coming week, 5 more days. If they stay above 1, if they close above 1 for 5 more days, they hit that. Now, what does that mean? Well, that essentially eliminates the risk of delisting or them having to do a reverse stock split to get their price over $1, right? They have plenty of time still, but that said, it's interesting to note. So what I'm looking at for SNDL is that if SNDL just sits where it's at right here into the end of the week, I will double my position potentially and just kind of set some sells up ahead of time, because then what are you expecting? If SNDL closes over 1 every single day this week, they have regained compliance. There's going to be a PR. There will be a PR on that, guaranteed. So then at some point, maybe it's next week or the week after that, who knows? But that's coming. Or the other thought process that I have with SNDL, what could they do to guarantee that this week they hit compliance? Come out Monday morning with a nice juicy press release about something they got going on, or could just even be a letter to shareholders, kind of re-encouraging them that they now have cash funded through X year, that they're good, they got a cash runway because they have no debt. They have raised some cash by some offerings lately. So it might not be a terrible idea to come out with a letter to shareholders on Monday or whatever, at some point this week, saying, hey, everything's good. We're expecting growth this year, blah, 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 whatever they want to say. And that could pop the price. All that has to do, get this price up over 130, 150. And then what does that mean? As long as they're not doing an offering, as long as the market doesn't come crashing down, which it probably won't. Again, who knows? Anything could happen this week, right? But that should set them up to get their price. That gives them nice cushions, that they have that leeway for the rest of the week for the price to come back down and come down off the high and still be well above 1. And then boom, they regain compliance. They're good to go. So that's my thought. So watch. I would not be surprised for an SNDL PR this week. Press release Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I wouldn't be surprised. Or if not, and the price is staying over 1, then guess what? I wouldn't be surprised for a PR the next week saying, hey, they've regained compliance. And what does that mean? That's not usually a big PR. That's not going to send the stock running massively, but it could kind of, usher some volume, get a little spike into it, maybe get it going up towards $152 if it sits right where it's at. But over 135 is key. Over 135 is where I want to see it break out over. And then it has a shot towards 150, and then we'll talk about more after that, I think. So that's that. Let's see. Sorry, I'm going to go back through and see if I missed anything. Let's go back through. Sorry. OPTT. Yeah, let's talk about OPTT. And ZOM, for those asking about ZOM needs to get over $2. $2 is your resistance right now. Over $2, ZOM could go for a lot more, but it needs to get over that level. OPTT was one that I liked. It was kind of trading in somewhat of a channel in a sense. So we kind of had, here's where I wanted to see it roughly kind of holding up and wanted it or come back to, and it just didn't come back that far. So if this thing came down like last week or 2 weeks ago, down under 4, that would have been a really good spot to buy. I like it. I played it though from this trend line bounce up towards like $5 or whatever it was. So it was up like 100%. I scaled out. I made money on that one, and it went to 7, but you can't catch, you never know how far these things are going to go sometimes. I should have left a few more shares on just in case. But that said, it looks like it's bouncing, putting in a higher low here, and it's bouncing off of $4. So $4 is your support. Now it's pushing up towards 5, hit a 540. Yeah, it looks decent. I like it. It could be good. I personally won't take it until it comes back down towards trend line, or maybe the 50 SMA starts curling up and it bounces off of that. That could be fun. The 50 SMA is great because it actually has, if we get rid of this trend line, rid of the trend line, the 50 SMA, this blue line, on the daily chart, it's bounced off this line once and twice. So it's holding that line as support. So yeah, could third time be a charm and it can break? Yeah. But that would be a better spot in my opinion. I like it though. I'm not saying that it can't keep running from here. Just for me, for an entry, I've already traded it, onto this spike. And I'm going to just, I'm on to other stuff until it comes back down to a better spot. OCGN. Let's pull this bad boy up. This thing popped pretty hard. This is actually almost one of those as well, where it came down very close to that 50 SMA and then just made that next kind of run off of there. I don't know. This is not something that I personally will trade because I don't know. This is one of those stocks too that, like, look at the history of this thing. This thing like would never move, and now it finally is going. Like, a 25-cent stock a couple months ago that just like wouldn't move off the bottom, and like now it finally has made ridiculous moves. It's up a lot. I wouldn't play it. Could it keep going? Yeah, this is a strong candle here, and it finished up in the after hours. Look at this. Finished up in the after hours. We got to go to the 4-hour chart to see that. Even higher, right? This is going to be a 10. This is going to probably gap to 10. So Monday morning, could I see OCGN hitting 10 plus? Yeah. I just wouldn't really personally want to be taking an entry up here. I would never enter the stock up here unless it's a day trade. But even a day trade here, again, the whole reason why I don't day trade very much, or when I do start day trading more, I got to transition my account back over, but because my account's still a cash account, man. It's like, unfortunately, I switched to a cash account because I felt like that would be a better way better for my style. So I don't have to worry about taking day trades. I can just set my limit sells immediately after I enter something, and it's been good. But now I kind of want to have the margin. I'm not going to use margin, but I want to have the full kind of effect of a margin account where I don't have to wait for cash to settle to use it and whatnot. So I'm waiting for March. In March, I'm going to switch it back. I'm taking a week off, or so. So what here, like, this is one that, like, the whole reason why I don't day trade these things up this high is because, again, what is your, like, think about it. I think of everything about in risk reward, okay? If I'm buying OCGN here, okay, there's no like chart history that's telling me, or is there? Is there a chart? There is, I guess, some chart history. So we could go off of the chart history. So this thing, based on the chart, has potential spikes up towards 17, $20. Yeah, could it? Yeah. But the risk reward here for me has been like horrible in these plays. So you catch a few that run crazy and you make your money. But so many times these things will come down, or they're going to dip a lot harder before they make the next leg. So you have to be willing to add those dips if you have the conviction behind the trade. And a lot of times it's not easy. It's mentally not as easy to do that. So your risk reward here, this thing could come down and cut itself in half. This thing can get cut in half. No one would blink an eye because it's still up massively over the past couple weeks. And you could be down massively on your trade, but it's like, the percentage there makes no sense. If you're already in, I think you're okay. This thing will probably make a run to 10 because it closed up so high in the after hours. But if you're not in, it's not something that I personally would be looking for until we get a dip, until we get a consolidation. They all are going to be dip. There's always a dip. There's like Neo, for example, right? For those people who are like, oh man, I missed the Neo run. Well, guess what? In the past couple of weeks, past couple of months, after Neo has made this crazy run, we've had a slower move. We had these pushes up, then we have these bigger dips and consolidations. These are the times you want to be buying Neo. Right now, after hitting that 66, boom, it's come back down to 55. That's a time that you want to be looking to be buying some Neo stock, because now at least you have a lot more, you're sitting nice and low. You're sitting relatively low off the highs, and it's still a longer term stock that you believe in. Okay, it's an EV company. Boom. China booming for EVs. Okay, there you go. Like that there's always a dip. There's always consolidation that you can always grab. At least that's my take. Okay, let me see. Going back through. Let's see. CRBP, yeah, I think it could go for more. Let's pull up CRBP. It could go for more, but I sold it here on Friday because it came down below this I used 260 as my cutoff point, and it dropped below 260, and I said, okay, I'm gonna sell my. I didn't have that many shares left either because I had this thing for like 150 or whatever it was, so I was up nice. I'm not gonna complain. It can certainly go for more. If it dips down like closer to $2, I'll grab it again. But this gap is crazy, and it's in that cannabis space. So it's a more medical cannabis kind of ties, but this sector is hot. So it's pretty volatile though. So understand that dips are your best friend on this guy. I think it could go for more. I wouldn't personally be buying this thing above 250. That's just me. If it goes to like $8, great. I missed out on that, but I still capitalized on the higher percentage of the move. The higher percentage trade was the move from off the bottom up 25 to 50 to 100%. That's your higher percentage move. Now this type of move is a lower percentage trade. Like, could it happen? Yes, but is it going to happen as often as these kind of pops off the bottoms? No. Let's see. Sorry, I'm going back through. Let's see. OPTD, we talked ELYS. Actually, that's actually funny. ELYS is on my list for this week. Why is that? Because it's sitting right here. It's in I like the sector, right? But it's sitting here at the 50 SMA. So we're close to it. So it's bouncing off of this like 4-ish 50 area, 470 area, and it's looking really good. I like this one as a long-term play. Here's an example of a play that you could play for like a longer-term swing, or even just like a longer-term buy and hold. Here's one that I like as that. But even for a short-term trade, from $5 to $7 to $8, bucks, that's solid percentage gains. I'll take that to the bank every time, and then I'll move on to the next one in my short-term account. Just capitalize on that move and move on. And if I like it for the long term, then maybe if I want to buy some on a dip, I grab it in my long-term portfolio and I do that. Take on CCIV. Actually, I had don't get me started on this one. I like it. The only problem, I like Lucid, I like the idea behind it, but the problem is that I just keep missing these opportunities. And each of these dips is always like seemingly like another opportunity to buy it. I'm like, well, maybe there's going to be some news like that, they don't merge with Lucid or whatever. And it's the same thing every time. The same news comes out. Oh, it's not, we're not imminent, or we can't comment on that as of right now. We have no talk, no comment on that. Like, okay, it's the same thing. all of a sudden one day we're going to get, they're going to have the agreement, they're going to have the deal with Lucid or whatever, and it's going to run crazy. It is what it is. This is something that I think is decent to scalp, because you get a lot of these crazy like fear buys, and so all these crazy dips to the downside are people who just absolutely panic sell, freak out, and then there's always an opportunity for that to be bought up. And seemingly it has been bought up, the past couple months. Only problem is that now it's like, okay, when you do get the deal with Lucid, how high can this thing go? Because it's already up at 36. How high could it realistically go before we start to actually dive in and understand what's going on with Lucid, right? Like let's get a little more information on Lucid themselves, right? Before you want to start getting some numbers, getting some ideas, right? Before, you want to be buying this thing for the long term. Ideally, right, it's more speculative now. It's kind of how I trade, but I personally didn't buy any. I missed it a couple times. I had the opportunity, down at like 16. Could have been up 100%, but I just didn't do it. That's just me, though. I mean, I kind of made that mistake myself. All right, let me see if I can catch up. CTRM. Okay, I'm catching up. CTRM. This one, I like. I think CTRM has that look because it kind of had this push up to 90 cents. Consolidation, okay, putting in higher lows, held up in the 60s pretty well, and now it pushed up and crossed 75 cents at the end of the day. I like CTRM. I think CTRM, I had some. I just wanted to clean up my positions. I didn't have very much in it, so I made a couple cents on it, and I sold my shares on CTRM. So I made like $25 or whatever it was on my like little like day trade kind of size that I had, and I moved on. Now eventually it ran a couple days later. It pushed up, so I like it. I think CTRM could be $1 plus, although I'm not someone who personally is buying it up here. I would have loved to buy it in the mid 60s, which I did, and I just sold it for a few cents. And then now, so for me, 65 or 60 cents is my cutoff. So if I'm looking at CTRM right now and I'm in it, if it drops under 60 cents, I'm probably taking, I'm taking that as a stop, mental stop, But that's that. Channel is cool. I appreciate that. Let's see. MITT over 100. Wait, what is that? Can GameStop get back over 100? Yeah, it could. We'll pull that up in a second. Oh, MITT, look at this. It doesn't look too bad. Bouncing, the thing popped to 450, bouncing. This thing looks pretty good. I like that. I like that little bounce move. I do like that. I'll pull up GME. It popped. Okay. Well, why? Let's get rid of this box because we don't run that. Again, can someone tell me right now why it's bouncing or why it bounced where it did? Right now, 50 SMA. Why do I like that so much? Because when a stock has pushed up above it, many times when you're just trying to figure out where is support, like where are we looking at, like where could this thing bounce? 50 SMA is always a good idea. It's a good starting block, and it literally bounced directly off that blue line, which is the 50-period simple moving average, for those who are curious, or the MA50 on Webull, right, that I use on the 1 year, 1 day chart. So we're looking at the daily charts for a lot of these things, for a lot of these stocks. That was a good bounce. Now, it's probably got to get, it could easily get back above, but it kind of had some range on Friday. What did it do? Let's see what it did on Friday. So it came down Thursday, Friday, then it bounced from $50 to, that's nuts. So somebody had GameStop, right? Someone bought GameStop at like $52, and then like this thing went to 95 like an hour later, or not even like 20 minutes later. That's crazy. That's crazy. It could. This is a potential spot where maybe shorts are looking to cover maybe now, and maybe you're getting a little bit of buying action coming back in potentially. People are looking to maybe like, okay, this is cool. This could be a good spot to buy. So that's what you're probably seeing. But I think if I had to guess, this will be a short-lived kind of bounce, although there is a gap from like 150 to 220-ish. So maybe that could get filled. I don't know. Unless you got to get some new buyers. You got to get this stuff resurging. The problem is that what seems like now is that you have hold the line, hold the fort, right? Hold it down, right? You got those people, and then you got people who are like, I'm out. I'm just gonna get rid of it and take my losses or sell it, or that. So, I don't know how many more new buyers can you get into this thing? I mean, or those who are people are gonna be adding to this position? I don't know. I don't think so. Personally, I don't know, maybe, but that's that. SGBX, and then we can dive into a bunch of the crypto plays. Crypto is going to be fun to see. We'll take a look at Bitcoin too. We're about like an hour in, so we can see the update. I think Bitcoin went down from last looking at it. SGBX, this could be a decent dip. This could be the dip right here. I mean, the thing, here's the thing. SGBX, right, went on an absolute massive tear. So this is a healthy dip. This is a very fine, healthy dip, in my opinion. It could even come down more. But it came down towards like $6. There's your dip. So under 650 to 6, that 650 to $6 range is a solid, area, I would say, as decent, dip buy opportunity, I think. Could it come down more? Yeah, but this could be a good dip before the next leg. Because these things, they need some time to chill. You gotta have some time to cool off. We'll come back to this trend line in a couple of days and see how this kind of plays out. But that's our somewhat of a downtrend for now. Let's take a peek at Bitcoin. How is it doing? Bitcoin is Bitcoin dipped a little bit down towards 37.6 and has now come back to 38. Okay, so I was saying I would like to see this area hold. Now, it's rough. That's why trading is like, art, not exact science. And then don't even get me started on crypto, because what do I know about crypto, right? At the end of the day, we're just kind of trading what's in front of us. But I would like to see it hold up in this area, because we had some consolidation up in here last week. I would like to see it holding up in this rough area, and then, bouncing off here. So we'll see. Obviously, watch Bitcoin the rest of the day. Just see what happens. If it comes back down below 38,000 and is holding below 38,000, that could be, where it's hanging out at support, right? Because we had these prior spikes, we had these prior highs up towards this 38, area, right? And so that was kind of the area to break out. We broke out. We hit 41 yesterday in the morning, and then now we're dipping back down. But this is actually a really healthy dip if this is what it is. If it's just a dip before the next leg, this is a healthy dip. You kind of break out of this rough resistance that we had. Now you hold up. Okay, now you hold that prior area of resistance as new support by showing us that we're kind of holding up in this 37 to 38.50 range, or 38.5. If we hold up in that level, that's good. And then the next leg could happen next week. So we'll see. I know it's getting a lot more attention. So either way, Bitcoin hitting 41,000 over the weekend is probably going to ignite some fires. Even if Bitcoin opens up at like 38,000 come tomorrow morning, it's probably going to ignite some more fires. So a lot of crypto plays are going to be heavily on watch. I would love it for it to stay kind of right here and then make the move, more later in the week, or make a kind of sustained slower move. I would love that, so I can get more dips in other plays, but we'll obviously see. So that said, like MARA, these aren't going to be perfect correlations to Bitcoin, but they're a good starting block. Like, look at Bitcoin first before you look at like MARA, right? So if I'm looking at MARA, I'm looking at, okay, well, I want to see Bitcoin pushing up, obviously. Number one. Now, number two, right now we can look at their own setup. So MARA, we can even, I'm actually thinking we even can get something else. We can get some, yeah, look at that. Oh, wow. There you go. So, we got this kind of trend line support to the downside right here, and we're coming up at resistance roughly. This 25 is like resistance for right now. So MARA pushes back up over 25 come Monday, which it could. If Bitcoin opens up like over 39,000, around 40,000, which possibly, plus the people talking about, oh, it hit 41,000 this weekend, MARA could make a quick pop to like 25, 26, and then come back down and dip during the day. Now, we also have been kind of seeing that, right? Bitcoin tends to somewhat dip during the day, during the trading day. So that's one of the things I've been noticing. So MARA, I'm in it. I actually have a decent amount. So, I bought a little bit more last week as well. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. It's not like I'm going to get, this thing has been, I think it's solid. I don't really want to see this thing coming down below like 16. It could, but that's just kind of how I'm willing to hold it down towards like 16-ish, worst case scenario. NAK. How has this guy been doing? Okay, this has been okay. Putting in higher lows, uptrending still. I would say 60 cents is your support right now. Maybe some higher pushes up towards like 85, maybe $1 at some point. We'll see. What is this guy? I know. Okay, so it's coming down. It's kind of, it's trying to bounce around this 1250 area. So maybe that's going to be an area to hold for right now. If not, I would say it could come down towards like 11 or 10 would be a better spot. I think this thing, roughly. Wow, actually, look at this. This kind of trend line that I have drawn in here ended up being really nice. So we had this bottom kind of support that was still downtrending, but still. And then we had this, I drew this line to kind of connect some of these tops. And eventually it pushed up, kind of broke out in a sense, and then came back down, tested that support, and then ripped from there. It was nuts. That's crazy. That was like 100% from that. Yeah, that's crazy. That was a cool one, but it's coming back down, so I would give it some more time personally. Does GME have another run? Maybe. maybe it does. I personally would have to bet on I would bet if I was gonna bet, I would bet on the opposite. I would bet it keeps continuing down, but that's just me. CTHR possible. This thing is up a lot though. If it dips, I think dips 250 is resistance for right now. Dips are better. Dips are your better friend. It's up way overextended for right now. It's got a lot of volume though. I don't know exactly what's going on here behind the scenes. So I can't say for sure. Jewelry, okay. Manufacturers, jewels, okay, interesting. So I guess maybe kind of like in a sense, somewhat of a metal or like a mining in a sense, I guess idea. But I guess it's not really though. It's like more of a actual jewelry company. Oh, okay, Valentine's. Okay, I hear you. That makes sense. That makes sense why it's running. Okay, so into Valentine's Day. So over 250 is a breakout. You can look to play maybe a breakout trade. That's not bad. Fisker, baby. Let's talk about some Fisker action. How has that been doing? Well, let's pull her up. FSR. It's honestly holding up this support extremely well. If FSR does drop below like 1450, then that sounds the alarm a little bit, but it's holding up extremely well in this range. So if you wanted to take a shot at FSR, this is another longer term speculative trade. It's speculative because obviously there's no cars on the road. We don't have Fisker cars on the road right now, unless you want to go back and look at like the old ones that they had out from like years ago, which I've actually seen, which is kind of crazy. But this one could be a decent. It could be a decent ad zone. I like it right here. We gotta wait. But the thing is, it's been pretty quiet, so that's good. When it's a long. I think it's a long hold, personally, and I have some. I've been holding some for quite some time. I took some off the table up here, and I've been selling covered calls out ahead of it. So if you have 100 shares or more, you can sell covered calls, and so I've been selling covered calls just to make a few extra bucks on it. While it's sitting there because it's kind of sitting quiet. So that's what I've been doing. Eventually what's going to happen is you're going to sell a covered call and they're going to have news and that's going to run up and you're going to get taken out. But that's the risk that you have with covered calls. AIKI, I've been looking at. Yeah, I was trying to get into AIKI. Believe it or not, I want to say I was looking at it right back here when it was like 130. And it was the pre-market of this day that it spiked to 215. And I was like, yeah, I would love to get into AIKI. But at the time I was like, yeah, I'm just going to wait if I can get a dip during the day. And then of course, the dip never came during the market hours and it just ran up to 215. So I missed that opportunity, but maybe it's setting up for another little pop here, sitting down at 150-ish. It could be setting up nicely if it holds this rough area. Let's see. Sorry if I'm catching up on some more of the comments. BIOL. I got some comments this one. Let's talk about this one too. So yeah, this one's pushed up quite a bit. I remember back in the days when it was like, the funny thing is that there's a lot of people who are new who are seeing like what's happening now with these stocks, but like those who are here for like months, back in the summer months and back prior, like you don't understand the grind that it was watching like BIOL go from like 26 cents to like 35 cents and going, oh man, like that's a sick move and like taking your profits. And now you're looking at BIOL going from 26 cents to $1.50 in like 3 weeks or 4 weeks or a month. It's all relative. Just my only thing that I want to make sure people understand is that this stuff's been crazy hot. It's awesome. Let's take advantage of it all we can. But this time is going to come again. This time is, well, maybe. I hope it doesn't. But understand that this is going to happen again, where we get to a point where these stocks, in the summer and into the end of the summer, into early spring, early fall, are going to go through these periods. But now we know how this happened this year. So if the same trend and pattern repeats itself into next year, right? What do we want to do once we get into like the end of the spring into the summer? What we want to do is we want to probably start positioning ourselves into more, not necessarily penny stocks. We want to get into like, I guess, some large cap stocks, some mid to large cap stocks. You want to start looking into some of those and then, holding some of those, or just honestly at that point, you can be playing just like play the bigger names, play the bigger name stocks, play Tesla for like swing trades or swing trade Neo or something like that. Yeah. You're not going to make as much money as you are making right now. Fair. That's fine. Unless you want to go to options and get into options, which I would recommend for those who are new not to do that until you have a really good feel on handling these stocks before that. Honestly, you would want to have months to years of experience before you really want to get deeper into options and start going crazy with that stuff. People can do it depends. It fits everyone differently. It depends how everyone is. It depends on your style. I used to do it. I just didn't have nearly the consistency that I'm having with penny stocks, and so that's why I transitioned to penny stocks. But this is actually looking really good. So, okay, it came down to $1 support, pushing up. It's got to get over one. It's in that range, and it's making this U shape to 150. So over 150 can make a nice little breakout move, potentially towards $2. But in the meantime, I would say $1 is your support. Buying this guy towards 1 or a stop under 1. Mental stop. That would be a better idea. Do you think Bitcoin and other crypto move enough to be data? Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could technically make more money trading those with no PDT. Yes. I've thought about it. I have, but I just haven't actually done it. If we want to look at it, we can look at Bitcoin really quick, and you can probably do maybe even Ethereum or something like that. Could be a better idea. I don't know, maybe, but let's see. Bitcoin right now, for example, if you wanted to look at let's say the 5-minute chart of Bitcoin, these are decent moves, that you're honestly getting. So it's you could. I mean, if you're looking to trade Bitcoin right now, this is a decent dip buy if I've ever seen one. It's at support or just around that support level, and it's bouncing from where it is. But you can make. I mean, this thing goes up, a couple $100, right? It could happen in a minute or two. Within 5, 20, 30 minutes, you can have a nice little day trade on Bitcoin if you wanted to. I mean, I've thought about it, but I haven't really. I mean, maybe that's something that people want to do this summer. I don't know. And people kind of get tired of other stocks, and everyone goes to Bitcoin. Maybe it could be fun. Mara and Riot. Let's actually see. I'm in Mara. Let's take a peek at Riot. They're very similar. I think that they're both going to move in a similar fashion. Yeah, they're very similar charts. So okay, so we have. I want to see both of them hitting up to $30. Now, I think as Bitcoin gets back over 40K, we're going to make a shot towards that $30 for both of these. So that's why I like on both of them. But the other thing, too, that I'm also in for a Bitcoin play is BTBT. Now, this one could be more of a lagger. This one dipped hard at the close on Friday, so I kind of like it. I mean, this trend line doesn't have to hold. I'll hold this thing down to $15 is my stop. But I have BTBT now. So we'll see what happens, but this is another one of those Bitcoin plays that I do kind of like as well on top of the Mara and the Riots. And it has, I want to say, let's go to, this is that other stock we're looking at before. Let's go here. BTBT has a 36 million float, okay? Whereas, let's say Mara has a 47 million float, and then Riot has a 49 million float. So Mara and Riot are very similar. BTBT is a slightly lower float stock, so it can move a little more volatile, it has a little more potential volatility in it. But I like it. $15 is where I'm cutting it off. Under 15, I don't want to hold it. But I think this thing literally has 100% potential. These have, even Mara and Riot could make crazy 100% moves with Bitcoin pushing up to new highs. If Bitcoin hits new highs, you have to look at some of these charts, right, and say, okay, well, when Bitcoin made its highs last time, BTBT was at 33. When Bitcoin made its highs last time, Mara was at 28. So you would think, okay, $30 isn't out of the question for all these stocks, and $30 for BTBT is 100%, whereas $30 for Mara and Riot is a lot less percentage-wise, but it's still a solid, move. So that's why I like those. Doge, I think I sold my Doge actually into the spike that everyone was going crazy about. I bought it months ago and sold into that spike. I didn't have much though. I was up 200%, so I can't complain. Let's see. Sorry, I'm going back through. Keep an eye on hemp. Oh, VISL. Yeah, VISL is another one too. I bought 200 shares. I actually bought 200 shares of VISL just as a fun play into next week because I missed the move. So I would have loved to have loaded up on VISL down here around $3 or even under 3 would have been the best place to load on VISL, but I didn't get that chance. So I just bought for my position sizing, I bought what I would call a lottery size or a smaller size. So I bought that and then we'll see. I have some orders set up towards like up towards like $5. So if it gaps up to 5, I'll be taken out and I'll make a few bucks. I'll make, make some money on that. It could go a lot more. I think VISL has UAVS potential. So another drone play. Look at the volume just absolutely pouring in. We got to zoom in on this chart. Sorry. I'll go to I was looking at the weekly chart. That's why. So VISL, we look at this. It hit like up towards 4. It's up over 4 in the after hours. Look at where it had went months ago. Hit like nearly $9. So I like it. I think it has that potential to make a shot towards 9. I could certainly go there. But look at UAVS. UAVS had this spike, prior spikes, and it pushed up, hit those highs, and look where it's at now, over 10. So I think it's a similar, you can kind of look to UAVS kind of as like a sympathy or like a similar play for VISL. So I think that's a decent idea. At least that's what I would, I mean, if I don't get taken out, like if let's say my sell orders don't hit come Monday on VISL, I'll probably cancel them and hold it. If they hit, it's like I'll wake it up to some extra money, so I can't complain. So that's that. SNDL, I like that one. SNDL, what I will say with SNDL is that they are 5 days into their compliance. So they have to regain compliance to keep their price over 1 for 5 more days. Then they'll hit their NASDAQ minimum bid requirement. So they're good. So they're 5 days out from that. So I was saying earlier, I would not be surprised to see a press release from SNDL this week to just ensure that they can pop their price up, hold above 1 for the rest of the week. Or I would not be surprised to see SNDL, if it holds up kind of naturally this week, would not be surprised or will expect a press release from them very, very soon about how they've regained compliance. So that's what I'm thinking is going to happen for SNDL. That's what I'm thinking. Let's see. CLEU, 8 million offering. Yes, CLEU. Here's the thing with CLEU. Be careful in this one. I think it needs to come back down. I played it. I actually, CLEU. They may have more in the tank, but it's a super low float stock. So be careful on this one. I actually was buy this thing under like 375. Under 375, if you can. Under 4 is probably okay. But really, under 3, if you want to be more precise, under 375 is your buy, and then sell this thing over 4. That's what I did like multiple times. I didn't make that much on it because I wasn't in like massive, but I did well on the pops over 4. So I can't complain. I took my profits on CLEU this past week. But if it comes right back down to this 375 or less, solid support here at like 360. Solid support. I would be cutting it under like 350-ish personally. But you have some solid support at like that 360 level. So, that's that. Make sure you guys hit the thumbs up button. We're at 100 likes. I appreciate you guys for doing so. Let's run those likes up. The record, I think, is like 1,000 or something now. It's like insane. We had like a crazy high a couple Sundays ago. So that's nuts. Let's see. Fun. Little fun. Fun on some Bitcoin ties as well, I believe, too. Yeah. Okay, so it's holding up. Maybe it holds $2 support for now. It's up a lot. I don't know. I would have loved it down in here maybe if you really wanted it, but I mean now it's up a lot, so be careful with this one. I just don't want, when I say be careful, I'm not saying that this stock is going to come back down to like, 0. What I'm saying is that the reality behind most people is that they'll buy this stock right here, right? It comes down and then they'll sell it at support or they'll sell it down here. Meanwhile, this would have been your better buy. If it comes down towards like 150-ish, that maybe ends up being a really good buy. But most people will be like, I can't handle it, I got to sell. So that's why I think position sizing is massive in the longevity of this game. For people who are just going to be, buying things randomly, holding, I'm going to, buy a ton of shares. I'm just going to buy, I'm going to buy like my full account size, and I'm going to hold that all through. And maybe you make 100%, you make, you double your money, you triple your money sometimes on some crazy plays. But at some point, right, you want to have that position sizing in place because at some point we're going to hit those months and you're going to hit a stock that you have an offering, or you get stuck in something where there's bad news, or there's this or there's that, and you don't want to be screwed. So if you're buying fun, right? If I'm buying it up here, I will never buy something and never go with a full position. A full position is 10% of my overall account. I will never do that unless it is absolutely bottomed out. Or Or I usually won't even do that. I will wait. I will always keep some extra cash or a little bit of a full position available for, let's say there's an offering or there's a freak event that happens, and I can always buy that dip. And if I had to get out of the stock and it makes a little pop and I knew, okay, I'm not going to hold this thing anymore, I want to get out, I buy the dip and I can make a few percent on that dip buy, and then at least make something out of, make the loss not hurt as bad. And that's what I personally do. One stock for tomorrow morning, I'll probably pick VISL if I had to pick one. That's probably, it looks solid. And then if Bitcoin can push up, which it doesn't seem like it wants to anymore, it's coming back down a little bit. Yeah, so VISL would be my top pick because of the strength that it had last week. And then Bitcoin plays, if Bitcoin can open up over like 40K, which we'll see how the rest of the day goes and into tomorrow morning, then Bitcoin will be one of those things that you definitely want to be watching. When is NNDM offering? I don't know. I thought they would be done, and then it seems like, everyone's kind of like waiting on that to happen again for NNDM. I don't know. I would love for them to do an offering so that I can buy the dip and make a little scalp trade out of it, or just even buy it for like a longer term play if you wanted to. But I think a lot of people know, like, when that happens, everyone's buying that dip. Lkco. I have not personally seen this guy, or at least paid much attention to this one lately, but it's sitting right here at this 60-cent support. So it's actually not a bad spot. It's consolidating nicely right around this level. I think it looks pretty good. I wouldn't want to hold this thing below like 57 cents. Maybe cut it off at this 200 SMA, but it's in a decent spot. I think this could make a nice little move. I like that one. Nerve. Not this one. We want Nerve. Let's pull it up. What do we got for Nerve going on? Oh, okay. So it's pushing up. It's holding a support at like $3, low threes. We got to get over this 375 and then push to 4, but it's got to make, okay, Nerve is interesting. So Nerve is like, this is an example of one of those kind of bottomed out plays that doesn't work out. So not all these trades work out, but here's an example of like something that I would have liked a couple weeks ago or months ago. And then it pushes up from like $3 towards like 4. So that's why you take your profits and always scale out. And then it just kind of boom, plummets back down and is pushed back up again. So, I mean, Nerve has a lot of range on the chart. Certainly an oversold on a longer term time scale, but it's got to get above $4 again for me to get excited about it for a bigger move. So over 425, and then we can start the party if it gets back up over this 550, which gets us into the gap. 550 is the gap on Nerve. Let me put sorry, it's a little small, but I'll put the line in. So over 550, then what do we got? We got we got some free chart space to move. So I like that if we can get over 550, but it's obviously it's a far ways out from right now. I don't know enough about what they have going on behind the scenes. Oh yeah, Clover Health. I mean, man. So okay, this is kind of crazy. So this thing has sitting at support, right? Looks like okay, it's bottoming out. Here it goes. We're getting ready for the run, and then Hindenburg comes out and goes, hey, like, here's 14 or 18 reasons why you should be kind of concerned about Clove. Then the company responds the next day. Then Chamath, the SPAC god, as everyone calls him, who's taken a bunch of companies public through the SPAC route, comes out, responds. And then is also kind of like, didn't piss me off, but like he kind of came out. Let's pull it up because I think it's kind of cool. What do we want? We want to go to Hindenburg Research. And we want to look at their recent piece or hit piece on Clover Health. So it's their pinned tweet, and you can go through and check out all the reasons why they pointed out. And then you can go on to Clover Health. You want to go to Clove. Let's see. Clover Health, and then you want to pull up the response here to the short seller. And they have 18 reasons or 18 points all pulled up here, responding to the short seller claims, giving them all, responding. And was it a decent response? It was okay. I mean, I don't think anyone was blown away by the response, but at least they responded. They gave a response. Okay. Then the thing that kind of pisses me off, but not, but then right from Hindenburg, we have, where is it? Chamath. Here's his tweet. So he comes out with his response because he didn't really say anything. The company obviously responded, and then he responds. He said that he wishes that Hindenburg had contacted him or Clover, and then they would have loved to sit down and talk about some things so that they could have gotten the truth firsthand across what's been going on. So I personally think that Hindenburg is kind of pulled a D move, in my opinion, because, why did you take the kind of that route, and why didn't you just contact companies and ask for some clarifications before you posted this? Say, hey, we're concerned about all these different things, and we may be looking to put out a report. Can you clarify? That would have been great, But again, that's not how this stuff works. It's kind of in my opinion, it's kind of a hit piece. It's kind of a hit piece on Chamath. Then he comes in and says, trust the process. He talks about all his SPAC plays, all of his SPACs he's taken. And he's like, okay, look at the history of my SPACs, blah, blah, blah. I think this is kind of just, whatever. I don't know. Maybe this is cool, but what do we see? We see Clover Health as one of the lower returns, I guess, so far. And recently, year to date, obviously the one that's performing the worst. I don't know. That's the news that's been going on, and the stock recovered nicely. It's got to get back up above 13, 14 for me to be interested, for me to be like super excited again. I have shares though, so that's just me. But yeah, I mean, that's just the nature of how this stuff goes. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if what happens here is just, it's a hit piece, and it's just a way that now they get in. One of those things too is that a lot of these kind of short sellers or these firms or whatever, they'll put out these things. Meanwhile, they're doing the opposite. Maybe they were looking to go long on Clove and they just wanted to get a dip. So like, honestly, you don't know. They literally said that they don't have a short position. And I think they said that because they didn't want to be targeted as a squeeze candidate. So not to be targeted as a squeeze candidate, let's just put out like, this whole piece. Maybe we have puts. Maybe we have a short. I don't know. They're not going to tell you obviously what they have anymore. And then whatever happens, then they probably buy the dip. I don't know. Maybe that's what happened. I wouldn't be surprised. Let's see. Something I can watch trades. Yeah. So what I that's the thing. I don't do the whole alert thing, and I'm not a fan. Not a dump and pump. I love it for Clove. I'm not a fan of that whole side of things, because here's what I think is happening. Right. I think if you are following, and it's I understand the use of it and the value, but to some. The problem that it's creating is that people are following people for these alerts, right? And there's people who I've even seen on YouTube and stuff, who have these, pay for my Patreon or Discord or this, and I'll tell everybody what I'm buying before I make the YouTube video. So what is that? That's just like for some of these penny stocks, it's like a pump. It's just literally a pump fest. Now, there's research. They're saying, hey, I'm buying this stock because here's why, and I understand that. So they're technically not in violation of whatever of I guess pumping the manipulation, if you want to call it that. But there's people who are that have issues with the SEC behind all this stuff too. But not that like that's something that I remotely like I don't know worry about. But like the thing is, number one, I obviously don't want to have that as a thought behind anything, and number two, I try to make sure that like. Number one, I don't want to have to rely on that. I want to do it myself. I don't care. Like nothing against like the guys who have these massive followings and buy the stocks before they tell their followers, and the stock runs up 100% because of their research. That research eventually gets out, obviously, and then the stock probably goes up eventually long term. I hear you, but I want to be able to trade this stuff, long term, and I want to be able to like go away if I had to, right, and not have to worry about. Oh, I got to just let me pump my followers and then I can just get out. Like that's never something that I'll do. But also like I think the same side for people who are following, you want to realistically for longevity here, you want to be able to do it yourself. So I'd rather be the person who helps explain what works for me, give ideas on like different stocks, ideas on sectors and see what's been going on. And then, of course, you can mold that, ask questions. If you take the same trades that I take because we like something, and you have your own plan, that's great. But I don't want someone to just buy because I bought and then sell, when I sell, or just sell it, that's not building the proper habits for you to become a consistent in a strategy long term. And for most, the harsh reality, though, for most people behind that is that the harsh reality is that you're much, much better off literally buying an index funds or buying like an ARK ETF and just parking your money in there and just continuously compounding that money and just buying more as you have more money to invest. Just buy more or let your money compound. Automatically reinvest dividends. You're so much better off just doing that for the vast majority of people who are not willing to come up with their own trading plans, to come up with their own ideas and their own kind of style. If you're not willing to do that, most people are better off doing that. And that's fine for many people. That's so fine. But the whole point of the channel is that I want people to be able to become their own trader. That's the thing. And so if you can beat the market by yourself, you'll never put your money in an index fund. You'll never give your money to a mutual fund because you can do it yourself. You don't have to pay the fees and none of that stuff. So that's what my whole take on that stuff. I will not ever tell someone to buy something or sell something at a certain price. Just not like, I'll say, I like the idea. I like this range. I did this. Here's what I'm going to do. I'll explain that stuff, but I want people to be able to take that and then mold that into their own strategy. There are people who are here who just day trade. I don't really day trade that much. So they have a completely different strategy, but maybe they just enjoy kind of, some of the ideas I have. That's fine. And that's the thing. And and during different times of the year, different strategies will kind of reign supreme. Like right now, my strategy for swing trades is working really well. But we're going to get to a point where like come summer months where it's not going to work and I'm going to have to adjust and change to something and change my strategy a little bit. That's kind of how I see it. It's called due diligence. But the thing is, most people are not willing to do that. So, that's that. Let's see. CIDM. Oh, yeah. CIDM is an interesting one. Let's see this bad boy. CIDM keeps pushing up. $2 resistance right now. Let's see. Go back to the left. What do we got? Okay, yeah. CIDM has got that U-shaped type of breakout or U-shaped kind of move. So up towards like 250 if it can get over 2, and then maybe we can get a $3 move to there. We'll see. That could be interesting. 250 to 260 is going to be resistance, I think. We have a spike here, and we have a spike here up to that 250 to 260 range. So that's a spot I would be watching. It's going to get rejected by 2 for now because $2 is just a whole number, natural resistance in a lot of penny stocks. So if you can get dips on CIDM, that's great. I mean, the 50 SMA is about to make that bullish cross over the 200 SMA in the coming, sessions. So we're getting close to that potentially. So that looks pretty good. I mean, it looks like it could be a solid play, I think. Let's see. Doge blowing up. Well, that's the other thing. Trading is not, it's not easy. So, yes, NEPT. Let's pull it up. A lagger in the cannabis space, I think for sure. It got rejected by that 200 SMA? Yeah, sure. If it's got to break out over that point, so it's got to get over this 230, and it gets over that point, then I can see 250 to $3 potentially on NEPT. But again, this is a perfect example of this is one of those trades that there are so many cannabis trades out there, so many cannabis plays. How did I find this one? It's because I just dug a little bit deeper. I was doing a little bit of my own due diligence, and I found this play. It was not hard. It took me an extra 10 minutes, one day to find it, But you go on Twitter, you go on YouTube, and I'm sure you can find everyone who's talking about all these other plays: SNDL, ACB, Tilray, this, that, and the other thing, and then all the OTCs or other stocks, for the cannabis sector. Yeah. But what did I find? I found NEPT, and I was able to buy this thing at the 50 SMA on that bounce. Boom. I mean, and the thing's already up, 30, 40, or 50 cents or so, actually almost since I found it. But again, it was because I found the lagger in a sector. It's one of those things that if you can do that and literally you can rely on your due diligence to define laggers in sectors, trade your own stocks. Don't rely on somebody else to call out SNDL for you and say, hey, SNDL is going to $2. Okay, you can buy and hold SNDL until $2. Maybe it gets there. Maybe it doesn't. Right? But that's a crowded trade. Everyone's doing that. So, eventually, right, those crowded trades are not going to always work out. And if you can kind of find a way to go against the grain, which you're going with the grain because you're going with a hot sector, but you're going against the grain in terms of picking a stock. Now, all of a sudden, once everyone's kind of cycled through every single cannabis play, I can almost guarantee you there'll be somebody, on Twitter, or there'll be a big push, a pump into NEPT or something like that, or a similar idea, because all of a sudden, eventually this stuff gets found. But, if you're first the party, you get your seat front and center, right? So that's the whole idea. If you can be first the party, that's the name of the game. That's the longevity aspect of it. Scalp trade level. See, that's awesome. I appreciate that. And I'll probably do more scalps too eventually. Once we get into slower times, I'll probably be scalping more. And that's the other thing too. For right now, my goal is 5% per week. Now, am I beating that goal past couple of weeks? Yeah, generally, right? We had one red week. We had a couple of 10%, so 15%, and yeah. But eventually, you're going to hit slower times where you're not going to have those 5% weeks. So you take advantage when you can, but then you kind of if you just think about the average, if you can average 5% per week, it's my saying, right? If you can average 5% per week across a year, do the math on what your portfolio will be like. Right? It's nuts. It's kind of crazy to see, and then you realize like, oh wow, like, it doesn't take me that long, realistically to get good at this stuff, and then I can be making, kind of crazy money, fairly without having to think about like, once you start doing 5% per week, all of a sudden that 5% becomes a significant number, right? In terms of an actual dollar amount. Let's see. Found net by accident. Very happy accident. Well, that's awesome. Elon is using Doge as an alternative stimulus. I love it. Teach a man to fish, exactly, and they'll fish forever, right? That's the whole thing. Okay, let's see. What else is going on here? Let's see what Bitcoin's doing. Bitcoin's actually pulling back. Yeah, it continues to kind of, it's probably going to pull back. I would say this is your kind of range right here, right? I would say you don't want to see it go below like 36.6, so another 1,000 to the downside. So as long as it holds that level, it's probably okay. ATIX or AITX. Okay, this is actually looking like it has a setup for a move because it popped to 21 cents, came back down, okay, pretty hard with some of these wicks, but roughly held 10 cents. So if it can hold 10, now it's pushing back up and kind of curling back on up. This looks like it wants to make the second leg. Usually what you kind of see with stocks that spike like this, they'll pull back and consolidate for some time. Then eventually they kind of U-shape back on up. And many times this U-shape could fail, but many times it also could break out and make new highs. So I kind of like that. That setup looks pretty good. I just don't know enough about the company to tell you like more than that, at least. Environmental stocks. I have a bunch of green energy stocks on this list personally. Let's see. Do we have anything good that's like low? I have a bunch. OPTT comes up, I guess, as one, as I guess not an EV. It's like a a renewable stock. Solar stocks, Enphase. People like a lot of Enphase. I think Enphase is a decent dip for like a longer term holding if you wanted Enphase. FSLR, a solar play at the 50 SMA, could be decent. SBE might be setting up for another run. I don't know, people. I've heard people who love it and people who hate it, but SBE roughly right here is kind of setting up at the 50 SMA support. Breakout over like $43. This thing probably makes a shot to 50 again. So I think SBE could be setting up. Let's see. Build a man of fire. He'll be warm for a day. Set a man on fire and he'll the rest of his life. Exactly. OCGN. Yeah, I think OCGN. We talked about it before. Yeah, we did. It hit 862 in the after hours. It's up a lot. Maybe it gaps to $10 in the pre-market hours, but like I would not be buying it up here. No way. But Sun W. Oh yeah, there's also Sunworks. CBAT is Sunworks is at 21. That's crazy. I didn't even realize that. But that's the thing. Like that's why I think that some of those OPTTs, even WWR, I think are still going to have more in the tank. CBAT as well. So look at Sun W. They're different companies obviously, but similar sector. CBAT is setting up as well. I think this could be a good play for a move potentially to 10 plus in the coming sessions. CBAT. And then I'm still waiting on some AYRO action. I'm going to see how this one does. This is setting up where it's at that 50 SMA. Could it make a bigger move? I want to see it make a bigger move and get up into this range. Maybe even push $10 or even go higher. We'll see. We will see what happens though. What do you think about EMAs? It's all about what works for you. So I use SMAs, simple moving averages, but you can also use EMAs, exponential moving averages. It depends on what works for you. So the MAs work for me, but if I wanted to pull up like EMAs, I could do that. Let's see if I can go to pulling up some EMAs here. The ones that I used to use them for more like if I was day trading stuff, I would use like the 10 EMA, the 25, 10, the 50, and the 200 EMA for like day trading stuff. But I mostly swing trade now, so that's that. But I know people who use like the 200 EMA for swings, people who use the 50 EMA for swings as well. So all about what works best for you. I say try it out, see what you can see. If you start overlaying some EMA, exponential moving averages, right, on charts, and you're like, wait a sec, like all these stocks are kind of bouncing off this, 200 EMA for whatever reason, or this, 50 EMA, or this 20 EMA, then maybe that's a strategy that works for you. For me, the 50 SMA, the 50 MA balance is a strategy that works for me. So that's what I use. I don't swing UK stocks personally. BAE Systems radar for Navy ships. Okay. APXT and LZ. Let's pull up APXT. Well, this is actually, okay. It's not bad. It's sitting right at this, again, 50 SMA as we talk about. So it's at that 15. 15 could be a good spot. This could be a good support spot for APXT. It's got some resistance up here around 17 to 18. So it's got to break through at some point, up or down. Pick a way anyway, right? Pick a direction. It's kind of in a range. This has been a fun. If you were someone to trade this thing up and down, this thing could be a good buy here. Looking to sell this thing over 17, and if it eventually breaks out, holding a little bit of your shares for a breakout move. So. CTRM we talked about a couple times, so it's on. If you wanted to go back, you can probably find like us talking deeper about it, but I think it's pushing up. It looks good. I think it can make a shot to $1, 60 cents or so. I wouldn't want to see it drop below. So it's making a move up at like 75 cents right now. It could make a move towards 1. I think it very well could. But in the meantime, let's see what's been going on. If it comes back down, 60 cents is your support. I don't know. I trade what works best for me. So right now there's no real reason. I'm gonna probably get into. Eventually I'll get into more day trade scalps. Eventually, right? I'm thinking I'm gonna start doing that more like come March and beyond. Eventually I'll start doing some of that, and eventually I'll probably get into OTCs more at some point. I'm just gonna, I'm saying it works for me. But again, when you kind of hit points in time where, like for example, the summer months, where like maybe the stocks I normally trade, are no longer as hot. Okay, that's a time to shift focus, adapt, and so that's when you start adapting to try to trade other things and start to notice patterns and trends, and that's where maybe you go into other types of stocks, you go into other markets, you go to OTC, and find what works best in other markets. Now, that's just how I am planning on doing things, but riding what works for me for right now. TTCF, I bought some more TTCF this past week in the long term, but it bounced very nicely at this like 23-ish area, held up pretty well. Had a little wick down, a couple of days ago. Had a wick down. Was that on Monday or was that Friday last week, I think? Or was that Monday? That was Monday, actually. Had a wick down, okay, fair, but it recovered and held up around this 23, and it's pushing back up. It's looking like it wants to make kind of a little mini U-shape recovery back up towards the upper 20s. And then, TTCF, I think, is a matter of time. It's only a matter of time before this thing kind of bursts and busts back over this, 25, 27 and makes a shot towards 30. And then I think it's potentially off to the races, after that point. Let's see. IVR. Okay. This thing has got, I can see it's building a base here at this like 375, and it wants to kind of make another push up off this. It's broke this downtrend, so you can kind of put in, if you wanted to put in a downtrend roughly, broke out of this kind of downtrend that we've been seeing lately, and now it's kind of recovering back to the upside. Let's see if it can make a shot towards this 460 and break above that, makes it run towards 5. I can talk about ZOM again because I know there's a lot of people who keep, kind of come back in and out. But ZOM quickly, $2 is your resistance right now, 150 support. So I would, if I was going to play it, I'd buy it at 150. If it dropped below 150, I'd sell it pretty quick at like 145 or so if it dropped below there. And then I look to maybe buy it down towards like 85 cents if you can get it down towards like 90. If it does do that, it may not, probably won't, let's be honest. So, okay, $2 is key. Breaks above 2 and pushes up. It's got some more room. It does have some resistance above 2 into like the 2 to 250 range. And if it can get past 250, it probably makes it run to 3. So we'll see. How the volume pours in. People like Zom. It's cheap. It's a fairly popular stock for whatever reason. It's like sometimes it's just who knows, why stuff happens, because I traded Zom back in the days when it used to do these types of moves, and it was a fun, fairly predictable stock. But now it's just kind of crazy. It's on steroids, it seems like. Mara, I like. Well, here's the Mara chart. The only problem is that we saw, not a problem. Okay, we saw Bitcoin pushing up. We'll see. Keep an eye on this the rest of the day. Keep an eye on Bitcoin the rest of the day and into tomorrow morning, because, it pushed up to 41,000 over the weekend. So I'm kind of curious to see is do we see people kind of, even if Bitcoin opens up, tomorrow, like around the same level it's at right now, do people kind of just say, take that into account, and do these stocks kind of gap up, these Bitcoin stocks, or do they kind of just sit where they were? That's going to be interesting to see, because we did hit 41,000. But I mean, you just got to understand, it's not going to go straight up. We broke out of this downtrend. We're pushing back up. We got some support down to 36.5. I wouldn't want to see it dropping below that, to be honest, to continue the higher lows, to continue putting in the higher lows. So if it holds support here, that would be, ideally where you want to see it hold, roughly where it's at right now, and make a recovery into the rest of the day and into tomorrow morning. But we'll see. Bought Zom at 17 cents last year, held it for a week. Yeah, I mean, I played Zom many times, honestly, back then. Yeah. Oh, DSS. Yes, DSS. I actually just put it on the list. DSS is on the list. Fresh. I did this before we came on. I have it's small. I've had many more stocks on the list. These are what I do is I pull out a list of stocks I'm looking for entries. And then, of course, as I have cash, as I exit positions that I'm currently in, then I'll look back to the list and I'll say, okay, which one out of these do I like the most? Which has the best risk reward profile? Boom. And that's where I'll take an entry on. So that's the plan. And then I have it list divided up into long-term positions and then short-term positions that I'm looking for entries on. But DSS made the list. Yes, it did. So offering hit $3. Let's actually pull it up. I didn't even see let's pull up the news. Okay, so they have $34 million offering. They offer 12 million shares at $2.80 per share. Okay, so it came down to 3. Okay, not the problem, but the thing is DSS, right? Blockchain. They got blockchain here in the company title right here. So doesn't matter whether that is kind of BS or it's kind of like a scam penny stock type of thing. If Bitcoin's hot, this is going to be a hot stock. So we have multiple. This is actually, now that I'm looking at it, I'm thinking that this is probably a really good play, because if Bitcoin keeps pushing up, this is going to be good. Yeah. So this is down. I mean, $3 is your support, but we don't have much history on this guy. So, I mean, I would keep it. You can look for an entry here. It's got a gap up towards like $4. I might take a shot come Monday. I may just take a shot come Monday, and if it does dip, I'll buy the dip. Have some cash available. But this one has potential to make it back up to $5. Post offering, you're probably good for a little bit, for at least a little while, for another offering. I would not be surprised to see DSS kind of bouncing around and then just kind of slowly kind of curling back on up. And if Bitcoin keeps pushing up, kind of curling back on up, making a run to 5. So this is kind of a really good play, I think. I think it's helpful. This is going to be good. Let's see. Let's see. Going back through some more questions. I'm not buying Doge. I actually bought Dogecoin a couple months ago, and then I actually sold it. But that was just what I did a few months ago. So I made it was up 200%, and I just took my money on that one. Let's see. Mara going to the moon, man. I mean, if Bitcoin pushes up, I love it. I think Mara is going to be great. Mara is something that I'm looking to take my first. I'm looking as long as Bitcoin pushes up, I'm taking my first profits at like $30 ish, or like just under $30. That's the target. That's the target. And then I would ideally want to hold a good chunk more if Bitcoin continues to stay strong. But I'm going to trade that one based off of Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin is downtrending, that's where I'll be looking to get out. But for now, it's still in the uptrend, so I like it. Bought plug at 1180, sold at 20. What is plug at? Oh my god. Oh gosh. I can't tell you how much FCL absolutely shook me out. Like, just horrible. This thing fell randomly to 158 one day. Just randomly, from like holding up around the upper, like around 2-ish, holding there. I want to see it hold like 190 or so. That's where I was going to kind of cut myself out. And then it went to like 158 and then recovered beautifully. And then the next couple of days pushed it up to 275. And in the next couple of months, FCL is up. It's 20 plus. It's $25. I mean, that's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. Do you need level 2 for swing trading? No, you don't need level 2. But I like it's a good tool. So I like to use it. The Weeble level 2 is like $2 a month. I mean, it's like why would I not, to have it? And so you get to see its NASDAQ total views level 2. So you get to see a good sense of where the bidders are stacking up, where the buyers are, where the sellers are at. It's helpful though to look for like taking profits. So if you're looking at level 2, like you're looking at like, oh wow, there's a big seller at like, $25 on FCL, which there probably will be because that's going to be a strong resistance. Maybe you're looking at level 2 and you're trying to determine where you want to sell into. Well, if you got a big seller at that point, of course there's fake sellers and there's all other stuff. It goes deeper than that, but roughly speaking, you want to probably sell just before that person. Or if there's a big bidder at like, 23, like for example on FCL, there's a bidder here at like 23.30. Maybe you want to put your order at like 23.31 just so that you kind of make sure you can get filled on a dip. So it's helpful to see, but it's not necessarily necessary, I guess. But it's as you learn that stuff, it's going to help you as a trader in general. So it's good to know. It's definitely good to know. Let's see. Do you like trailing stops on pennies? In your opinion, was particular? Yeah. So I don't use stops. The reason why on pennies is because the problem that you have is that the stop ends up getting hit more often than not, or at least my experience is that the stop gets hit more often than not before the rip. So, you can be in a stock that, for example, like I just said, but FCL, right? This stock, right? This thing dips down to 158, and maybe that was a market maker just trying to shake everybody out, hit the stop loss because they can see your stop losses, hit the stop losses, and then boom, from there they take it up, they buy a ton of shares, they take the stock up, and then literally like FCL 2 months later is like $25. So they just cashed in massively on this play, right? So that's why I don't like stops. I many times have noticed that if you just put a limit buy instead of a stop loss, many times that ends up being the better idea. Like you literally just buying more when it dips like that, many times either for like an intraday scalp or many times for like a swing trade, just adding to my position on a dip. Many times that works. So I don't, but a good example of this, I guess, is CRBP recently, because CRBP, so what I did on this one was I sold up into this pop right here to like 240, but I sold half of my shares. So I had a position, I sold half my shares there. Then it came back down and it dipped down to like 180. So it dipped down quite a bit off of where I had sold half of my shares. So what some people may have done is put a trailing stop and said, okay, this thing goes under $2. I'm going to stop myself out. Yeah, and that's what I was thinking about potentially doing, but I just didn't do it. And ideally, I was like, this could be a decent buy again on this dip. Didn't actually buy more, but that could have been, I guess a way you could have played it potentially was stop yourself out at 2, and then it starts to hold up around this 175. Maybe that's where you kind of re-enter. But for me, it's I generally don't like using stops. So it's like you kind of have to say, okay, it keep it in. It's what I'll do is like, let's say I had that idea of $2 being my stop, and it dips below 2, but if it comes back up and recovers above 2. Well, that's where maybe I'll be lenient on that. So I'll watch it. I'll put an alert to come check on it. I don't have the best answer for you there, but You always take, the way that I protect my investment is taking profits. I take profits fairly quick. So a stock, I immediately, when I buy something, I immediately set some sell orders, and some maybe for like 10, 15% to the upside, just to lock in some gains for just a small amount of my shares. And then I'll set some other ones a little bit higher, up towards 25, 30%. Or at resistance points. If I'm noticing, hey, there's a resistance point at like $3, I bought it like my average is like $2.50. I'm noticing $3 is going to be resistance. I'll set some sells just below 3 to lock in some gains as well. And then of course, what it does is that it allows me to know, okay, well, this is now, this trade is going to be guaranteed profit because I'm not going to let this thing come back down below my average. And so I've already locked in gains. If it takes me out at $3, it comes back down towards 250. At 247, I'm cutting it. And so you can lock, or you can, honestly, many times buy more. It depends on support and how things are playing out. But that's kind of how I play it personally. VTVT, man, don't even start on VTVT. I had VTVT, and then it cracked below the 50 SMA, and it cracked below $2. And so I said, you know what? I'm not going to hold. I don't like VTVT if it does that. So I sold it, only to watch like 2 days later if this thing go 100%. But it's come back down. So I mean, if it comes back down towards like $2, that's a better buy, in my opinion, on VTVT. BLU. This is actually one that I was in. I made some money on, and I kind of left it, and I got out of it. But BLU bounced off of 50 SMA, so it's looking decent. It's got a lot of range to the upside. It's just a long term. Like if you want to play this one as like a longer term, kind of more of a boring play, it's just it could be a solid, just kind of grinder. It's got to get back up. See, it had resistance up here at this like 444 because it had this is the gap. Over 450 is this gap. So once blue gets over 450, you're into some uncharted, well, you have history obviously, but you're into some kind of free range. So this thing can make a pretty big move very quick. So that's why I kind of think it could be a decent longer term play. Just kind of hold that one and let it kind of ride. Obviously, I would do a little more due diligence into the company first, but that's always a given. That's one of those things too. I'm very technical in nature, guys, but when I enter a trade, you better bet I've looked into the company at least a little bit before I take any position. So I'm not going to just, I have a list here, and this list is 100% generated by technicals. I have not looked at anything else. It's all technical based, but then when I'm getting ready to buy into a stock, I'll dive a little bit deeper. Okay, do they have an S3 on file? Is there a threat for an offering? Do they have cash? How much cash they have? Did they recently do an offering? What's some of the latest press releases? What are they kind of hinting at in the latest PRs? It's like a 10-minute thing. It doesn't take very long to kind of quickly just do some quick and dirty due diligence. And then I'll take a position. And then as time goes on, I'll look a little bit deeper. And then that's where I'll start to maybe add to my position as I feel more confident in the play. So that's kind of what I do. Am I going live? I may go live during the market hours this week. I'll try to do that. I enjoy that. So maybe we'll try to make that a point. I'm thinking about maybe just starting to do like a Wednesday night at a minimum. If I don't do a live during the week, during the day, at least do like a Wednesday night, kind of like pop up live, just because I think it's kind of fun to catch up on what's going on. If something crazy happens, that's probably when I'll do a live. On the spot. But if not, just kind of catching up we did a live Wednesday night last week, catching up okay, we're recapping cannabis plays. I kind of I still like my Bitcoin plays, and we kind of went off of, what's been hot, and going across, some of the hot plays for the current week. So it's fun to do. Blue had a price target of 850. Okay, that's interesting. Let's pull up, let's pull it up. Let's see if I can see it. Yeah. Wow, actually, look at that. Okay, there you go. So this is tip ranks. There should be a link in the description of my videos. If not this one, go to my latest video if you want to check it out. But it's not by any means like something that you need to have. But I like it. I've been using it a lot lately to look a little bit deeper into some price targets and some analysis of some companies. But the low end PT for blue here is $8. So okay, we got an 8, we got a 10, we got a 12. I mean, that's in the past 3 months. That's all since the dip. So I kind of like it. This could be good. And by no means do you want to go off of someone's PT, right? Price target, but it's a good help. It's a good guide. It's definitely a good guide. It could be helpful. All right. So what I'm going to do is go live my homework, finish as you can. hit the like. What I decided to do though was I'm trying to do this earlier because Super Bowl today for us for us watching. So I just didn't want to do it live at night. I figured that people would be watching the game anyway, and so and I kind of want to watch the game too. So I don't want to just I figured we do this. But now going forward, right? Football's over. So going forward, the live should be fun because we've been always going live during like games. So now we got people who got nothing else to do but come on and talk about some stocks. So Sunday nights going forward now, 8 p.m. Eastern is the time we're going to be going live Sunday nights. I just did a poll. That's just because it's worked best for most people, and that's that. Video on my due diligence. Yeah, that's what I'm going to start doing more. I'm going to start doing more personally, like more of those videos. I know that there's a blend because I would like to kind of have people. I like doing the videos of like this sector's hot, like top stocks and whatever. Those are fun, but again, when I make those videos, ultimately the people who watch those videos, it's kind of like a precursor. You need to make sure, like I want to make sure you've watched my other videos. Like if you go back and watch like the strategy, the how-tos, this, that, and everything, then you can come in. Then you have the qualifications to come and watch like the top penny stock videos, because the video that I made yesterday going over the top penny stocks that I'm watching this week, if you guys haven't seen it, go back and check it out. I also recap my account every single week in that video in the beginning. But you don't like, not in a mean way, but you don't deserve to take a position in those, or you should not take a position. Not deserve. You shouldn't take a position in those stocks unless you kind of know how the game works. Go back and watch. Literally, I have a full how-to on how to trade penny stocks, like how I do it. It's like 40 minutes or something like that. If you haven't watched like those videos, then don't trade a penny stock, because you have to understand kind of what's at play here, how the stuff generally works, the risks, how they're traded generally. It's great. So I want to do more of the how-tos. I want to go into more of that stuff because it's really important, and hopefully I can build out and I can arrange things a little bit better on the channel too, on the playlist side, so that it's like a course. It's like a book. Anything you want that I like have a video, like anything you want, I hopefully have something on. So that's why I can give my take on that. So this way, people who are new have a great resource. That's the whole point. That's what I want to make sure I build out. So this channel is not just like a one and done where someone comes and watches one video and then they move on. Like I want it to be a great resource, for free, right? Obviously that only fee is hitting the thumbs up button, and then like when there's an ad, like that's the only fee, which ultimately is still free, right? So thank you guys so much for jumping in. I'm going to wrap things up. Been going for about 2 hours. I have talked about BIOL. I have talked about ZOM, a lot of those stocks already in the stream. So the stream will stay up on the channel, so you can come back, come back and watch it. And that is that. You should be informed so you can, yes. If you are not informed about this stuff, if you're not informed, then you shouldn't be taking trades, right? You're going to do better long-term just putting your money in like an index fund. If you don't have some of the information behind the scenes long-term, I mean, you can have a lucky play here and there, but that's that. So I'm going to wrap things up. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Good luck to those Chiefs and Bucks fans. I'm personally an Eagles fan, so we got enough issues going on as it is. But I'll be watching for sure. So thank you guys so much. This will stay up on the channel so you can come back and watch it whenever you would like. I appreciate you. Hit the thumbs up button on the way out, and I will see you guys this week. Good luck this week. Stay green.